Alright, y'all. I'm here today to break down Propositions 26 and 27 for you. Because I know you've been getting pounded left and right from these damn YouTube commercials. Whether you're on YouTube or on cable, seems like you can't avoid them, can't get away from them. People telling you to say yes to 27 and no to 26, and yes to 26 and no to 27. I know you're just as confused as I was, so come along. We're going to be hanging out while I break these down and possibly even make it more complicated than it even started out with. Alright, so check it. 26 and 27 in general have to do with opening up the gambling laws in California to allow sports betting. Now, in the past, sports betting has not been allowed out here in California. Also not allowed here is roulette, craps, and dice games, and certain kinds of card games, I think, as well. So a lot of these casinos mainly run off of slot machines and stuff like that. So 26 and 27, in general, deal with relaxing some of these laws in order to open up some more possible gambling avenues for Californians to take part in. Now, the big difference between the two propositions is that 27 aims to make gambling on your cell phone legal. So 26 would make the same types of things legal, but only on indigenous land and basically in the house of the existing gaming tribes that have a monopoly on the gaming market out here in California. So whereas 27 is going to make it legal to do right there on your cell phone and through apps like DraftKings, FanDuel. I think MGM also has a platform for some type of sports wagering or online mobile wagering. And so if that becomes legal to do on your phone, there is a promise to do a kickback of tax revenue or some type of revenue to non-gaming tribes that do not have their hands in previous deals out here in terms of like making casinos and stuff like that. Now, what gets tricky here is in terms of how these propositions are written and who's going to actually end up benefiting from the various propositions. And what actually is the case, I've learned, is different from what seems to be the case on the surface. So based on what the ads say, if you vote yes to 26 and no to 27, then you'll be effectively blocking the big corporations from taking any part of gambling proceeds from sports betting or anything that can happen now in California. Now, you could make the argument that the tribes that oppose 26 and want us to vote for 27 just want their own piece of the pie because they've been excluded from gambling revenues or that industry by these tribes that have monopoly in the past. So you really don't know morally what the best option is to do. It seems like no matter which side you take, you're messing over somebody somewhere. Okay, so let's take a look at these propositions individually and break them down, some of the fine print and some of the devil in the details, because I really feel like both of these propositions are written really, really poorly the more that I get into them. And at the beginning of my research, I definitely supported one over the other for various reasons. But the more I get into it, the more that I really think that both of these propositions need to just be voted down and rewritten so that some of these issues can be addressed. So we got to take a look at these propositions individually so that we can get an idea of a lot of the devils in the details and just how poorly they're written, in my opinion. So starting with Proposition 26, we'll go over some of the pros and cons. So the pros of 26 are that the sports gambling laws, as well as the laws surrounding dice games and games like roulette, will be opened up. So existing gaming tribes now have access to these games as revenue streams. It also helps with the black market. There's a black market of sports betting and probably card games and stuff like that happen whenever something's illegal. So this is saying yes to 26 is going to help these already existing tribes and also help with the black market. Now, the con to this is already baked in. Not all tribes are gaming tribes. So this is an inherent issue, I feel, with the way that deals have been made in the past between certain tribes and then other tribes not being privy to any of the spoils of those deals or anything. And so it really is just fixing one problem and not fixing it the entire way. And so I don't see voting yes to 26 as a solution to the inequality in between gaming and non-gaming tribes out here in California. Moving over to 27, the pros of this are that we will now be able to take bets and place bets, gamble, do gambling type things on our cell phones in the palm of our hands. And I think that that's the future. I don't have any moral obligation against being able to do things on our phones. We already have them. In fact, I think in the future it's just going to be more things turning to, if you can do it in person, then you'll be able to do it here as well. We already have the device, and it only makes sense to have everything just be able to be done with these devices as well. So I think that that's a step in the right direction there. Another positive is that it cuts in non-gaming tribes. So once this becomes legal, sports betting, if Proposition 27 goes through, sports betting on our phones will be legal, and companies like DraftKings, FanDuel, MGM, they will have to pay their proceeds to non-gaming tribes. And so on the face, I love this. I think that that's great. I think it's great for tribes that have not had access to gambling as a revenue source in the past are able to get it through this new deal with companies like FanDuel and DraftKings. Also, another pro is that this will allow any tribe to run online betting platforms. So this isn't just saying that like one company is able to come and do it, like FanDuel, they're the only ones that are able to do it. It's not saying that. It's saying that anybody's able to do it. So theoretically, even the tribes that are already have the gaming monopolies, realistically, they could also create platforms, and there's nothing legally stopping them from doing it. And this is something that they'll try to talk about on their ads, is that 26 and 27 are mutually exclusive, when I don't really believe that that's the case. I think that there would be obviously diminished returns in the event that they both get passed. But that doesn't mean that there's not any gain. And if everybody can eat off of something, then I'd rather see everybody eat than see just one side of the conversation eat. This is where I have issues with 27, is going into the cons. They say that 85% of the revenue that is going to be allocated for these non-gaming tribes and for tribes in California is 85% of it is going to be going to addiction, treatment, and housing. Now, I'm very skeptical of this because of how unsuccessful a lot of the efforts have been in the past to try to curb addiction and housing. So I'm from Utah. Obviously, when I hear that they're going to be putting a bunch of money into addiction, you know what that tells me? It tells me that they're going to be putting a lot of money into addiction treatment. And so that means, and I don't necessarily want to see a bunch of rehabs popping up. I would rather see them take care of a lot of this crumbling infrastructure in our cities. Half of these buildings are uninhabitable and there's literally homeless people sitting outside of them when they could be sitting inside of them, and there's no business going on inside of them. They're completely boarded up and everything. And this is actually a point that I saw from another YouTube video, which I'm going to add right here, where just a casual park goer is talking about this same issue and about how they use the homeless as a distraction in order to get a whole lot of money put into something, and that doesn't have a whole lot of fruit. So I'm going to add that video. I'm going to add that clip right here because I think it's really illustrative of how when they say they're putting a lot of money into housing or addiction, how this really doesn't mean exactly what they say it's going to mean.
You know what I don't like? They're always talking about the homeless and how New York City gets billions of dollars every year from federal government, state money to take care of the homeless. And it's got to be about $1 billion a year. And it's not even, I don't think, 100,000, maybe 200,000 homeless. This should give it 200,000. $1 billion, 100,000 empty buildings in New York. They can just renovate them, but they'll take that money and buy a new van, get a kitchen somewhere, and get a paper bag, put a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in it, an apple and an apple juice, and ride around and give it to you. And I'm wondering, I'm not wondering, I know, it's a business. They don't care about the homeless. They care about the business. It's a business. And everybody is using the homeless, especially the city. I'm saying the city, the government is using the homeless to line their pockets. That's exactly what. So I don't like that.
Again, I really like that clip, that part about them buying a whole new truck just to go and drive around and give around peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. That's a really good point, okay? $30,000 for a new truck, and they spend a little bit on the food. It's just, we've got to come up with a better way to handle these problems, because when they get huge checks like that, then it ends up going into literally GMC's pocket or GM's pocket or Chevy. I don't know. It seems very backwards to me, and it doesn't actually help the people that are in need. So with that said, I'm not sure if we've done a very good job of making this an easier decision for you. In fact, the more that I dove into this, the more I realized that once you make a decision for either of them, somebody's going to be feeling like they're being messed over. And so I'm definitely not satisfied with either of the bills the way that they're written right now, how each of the propositions are written, especially not right now. And it's worrisome because most people just think that this is a matter of, should we allow on gambling on our phones or not? Well, it's very complex, and it's literally not just that. There's so much more. All right, y'all. I really appreciate you bearing with me as I try to explain Propositions 26 and 27 as they relate to sports gambling and the tribal communities here in California. It hasn't been easy, and the ads online haven't made it easy for us either. If you listen to those things, you will be thinking that it's all about some moral issue, whether we should allow gambling on our phones or not. But when you really look at it, it's not a moral issue at all about gambling. Actually, after researching this, it's become more clear that it's not a moral issue about gambling at all. But this is actually a question of what they're going to do and who's going to be the beneficiary of these tens to hundreds of millions of dollars of proceeds and tax revenue that come from said gambling. Again, I have no problem with gambling or bringing these new ways of gambling to California, like being able to place sports bets on your phone. I'd love to see technology be the thing that lifts the tide and brings all boats with it. What I do have a problem with is the petty way that these propositions have been drafted so far. I'm not comfortable supporting the monopolies that want to pass 26, in the same way that I'm uncomfortable with having the public funds of 27 be misused or go into the hands of predatory industries. And that's why I'll be voting no to Proposition 26 and 27 come November in California. I hope that I've been able to explain this in a way that that helped you guys out. I know that those ads they only obfuscate the problem. They only change what we're talking about and only really seek to muddy the waters surrounding what these things actually mean. They just want to slander the other, throw some mud, sling some mud at the other side, and talk about how your kids shouldn't have access to the gambling on their phones. Well, your kids aren't going to have access to the phones. None of that's true. They're just all going at each other's necks because they want the cheddar that is attached to this industry. And man, it's wicked. It's wicked. America is this one was complex. So I enjoyed learning a lot about this issue, and I want to definitely hear about your guys' opinions as well. And I would even be really interested in talking with somebody who is native about this and maybe has a more more insight on what the gambling landscape is out here in California, and has been in the past as well. So I'm open to conversation and think that we should talk about this one, because this is a really interesting subject, and it only gets more interesting the more that you think about it. So one more time, I really appreciate you guys for hanging out this whole time, and look forward to seeing the conversation that we get into in the comments. So peace out. It's your boy DJ Tykes, and I will catch you guys on another time.